Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic? Let's do it. What's the most effed up thing that you've seen a friend do? Part 2. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Point my dad's handgun at me. We were 8, and I was staying over at his house. He kept laughing as I begged him to put it down. I called my mom and had her pick me up. My friend's mother had been leaving food out for a stray cat, so it started coming over to eat every day. One night, we were sitting on the porch. The cat came up to the food bowl, and my friend shot it point-blank range with an arrow. Needless to say, we're not friends anymore. Friend was down on his luck, lost his job, couldn't pay rent. I offered him a room until he got back on his feet. Turned into a 3-year nightmare of him freeloading and not really trying to get back to work. He invited legal reasons why he was entitled to stay. With no money, he was like an extra adult child in the house, free room and board. Probably not too high on the list here, but I had a very close friend and absolutely hated his ex, the mother of his 2 kids. He would regularly use them as pawns against her, including spying on her for him. He was supposed to enroll their son in school one summer, and he decided to defer that to stress out his ex. He also spied on his daughter's friends when she hit junior high and high school, making dozens of Facebook accounts to do so. He claimed she was hanging out with terrible people. He ended up getting charged with a DV against her, and that's when I noped out. Brag about effing a mutual close friend, very recent ex, while his 8-month pregnant wife was at home by herself. Tried to show me photos. Immediately removed from my wedding invite list. Don't respect your marriage, you won't be a part of mine. I mean, that's pretty bad. And then talk about it. If you're going to act like that, just keep it to yourself. That's terrible behavior. A friend of 15 years let him stay with me for 6 weeks after being kicked out. Agreed to bring him on my lease since I live in a 2-bedroom alone. Asked him for rent, left to take my dog out to the park, came back to an empty apartment, and my number blocked. Years ago, had 2 best friends, B and R, let's say. Had been best friends with B for a good 7 or 8 years, but within the last few months, B cousin had gotten him to try drugs, and I went over to R's house to work on cars and hang out. I had stepped into the house from the garage to use the bathroom. When I came back out, R pulled me aside and told me B had slipped a hit of LSD in your Pepsi can. Don't drink the rest. Brag about cheating on her husband multiple times. Played the victim when he caught her and left her, wailing how much he loved him. Got back together just to cheat on him again, not even a couple of weeks later. Gave words of support to a friend of hers when her boyfriend broke up with her, while effing said boyfriend behind her friend's back. Nice. They got together officially a few weeks later, and had cheated on each other multiple times, not even 6 months into the relationship, but always got back together because they loved each other. I stepped away from that friend group because the drama was stupid as F, and even if I'm not the one directly involved in it, I do not condone that type of behavior: cheating, lying, manipulating. I had a bunch of friends and neighbors over for New Year's Eve bonfire about 5 years ago. I live in the mountains. At midnight, 2 of the attendees pulled out their guns and emptied their magazines into the ground behind the fire pit in rapid fire. Mind you, I'm a gun owner, but it really jolted me and others who were there, many who were drunk. Fortunately, neither of them were drinkers, so they were at least sober, but discharging a firearm at a party without any warning is just effed up. Stole a portable charger from a mutual friend and gave it to me to pay off a debt. I went and hung out with the friend and pulled it out, and she yelled at me, but I threw him right under the bus, and she understood. I absolutely hate friends that steal from other friends. I mean, in this instance, you didn't throw anyone under a bus. You just told the truth. I mean, you didn't need the person like that in your life anyway. We had this event at our college, and my friend made a script for it. He was doing stand-up comedy. He goes to the stage and then proceeds to make fun of the way I look, the way I walk, and the way I talk. Everyone was looking at me. I've never felt so embarrassed in my life. I told him multiple times that I wasn't comfortable with him talking about me, but He didn't want to listen to me. I was just recently getting confident about the way I look, and now I'm terrified of going to uni because I don't want to be bullied or made fun of. It isn't much compared to the other stories here too. Thank you all for helping out. I'm already getting some of my confidence back. I know it's not much, but I changed my PFP to a photo of myself. I don't know why, but I think it has something to do with being a bit more confident. Also, I'm really touched by how a lot of you reached out to me and helped me with what I went through. 3 years ago, I made the decision to stop drinking. After about 11 months of sobriety, my best friend shows up at my door, several bottles of vodka with her. I'm tired of you being sober. Stop being a little bitch and get drunk with me today. After a moment of shock, I uttered, no, that's not happening, and we're never speaking again. Door closes. She tried to reconnect several times, immediately following, I'm sorry, I was only kidding, and I'll kill myself if you really don't talk to me ever again. To which I replied, I will not feel guilty for any choices you choose to make in your life. Stopped her manipulation pretty good. Eventually, a relative of hers calls me asking what happened, as the friend stated that I cut them out for no reason. As soon as I told the relative, well, I got sober, and they didn't like that, and wanted me to drink with them again. The relative interjected, say no more. I respect you for what you did. She really needs to get some help. Thanks for taking my call and explaining. In retrospect, I waited way too long to cut that friend out. My one friend lived in a really shitty single wide years and years ago. We would party there. One night another friend got wasted and stabbed the friend who lived there. Dude was fine, mostly superficial wounds. The stabber overdosed maybe 15 years ago, surprising nobody, but it was effed. I was having a few drinks at a friend's place when out of nowhere he got up, grabbed a screwdriver, and without saying anything, stabbed the guy sitting next to me right in the thigh. I later found out it was over some money the guy owed him. Last I heard, my friend is in prison for attacking 3 people with a hatchet. Had a friend a few years ago. On a drunken night out, we were walking home, and it was pouring down with rain. As we were walking, he spotted a frog and picked it up. We were all amazed and in awe of the little guy, until he drop-kicked it straight into orbit. Stopped hanging out with that guy after that. Had a friend at uni. One day he called his girlfriend 3 times. First call, 5 minutes of most effed up verbal aggression I ever heard of. Stupid W said around 25 times. Second call, loving boyfriend, perfect son-in-law. Third call, worse than the first one. I told him to never speak to me again, and he was the worst human being I ever met. No one has been that honest with him before, and he really wanted to become close friends to me after that. Was a total accident, but it was crazy. Was working at a log home company with a friend. He was on a tall stepladder guiding a log being held by the crane to be placed on top of the house. The log was set down, and he took the tongs off and tossed them over the side like usual, and the crane operator started to lift them. One of the tongs caught the bottom of the log and made it start rolling right towards my friend. I looked up just in time to see him jumping off the stepladder and the log rolling off the top and crushing the stepladder while he was still in the air. It was like a movie scene. The log hit the ground on one end, and a wave went through it and split it in half down the length like a toothpick. My friend was okay, but shaken up for sure. He nearly had 4,000-pound log fall on him. He escaped by inches. I had no idea a piece of wood could flex and break like that before that day. It was probably the craziest display of physics I've ever seen. My brother had this habit of forgetting leftovers in the microwave until they looked like a microbial garden. Fast forward to his friend comes over, and we offer him Thanksgiving leftovers. My brother opens the microwave and pulls out one of those aforementioned garden plates. He says, "My bad," and goes to throw the plate away. His friend immediately grabs the plate and polishes off the moldy food on it. The guy gags a little and then says, "Yum," with a big smile on his face. My brother and I just stood there in horror. The guy genuinely thought he ate a nice plate of Thanksgiving leftovers instead of a botulism festival. All the classics of a Thanksgiving meal. Turkey, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, green bean casserole, penicillin. Great. Trigger warnings all around for this one. Seriously. If you're sensitive to topics involving suicide, please scroll on past. My best friend and roommate killed himself in front of me 29 years ago. He used a .38 revolver that he purchased from a pawn shop of all places. I didn't know he had it, nor did I know he was going to end his life. We were watching Star Trek: The Next Generation and drinking beers. When the episode ended, he said he wanted to listen to some music, so he put in the cassette tape. This was a while back after all. It was the soundtrack for Man of La Mancha. It was cued to Dream the Impossible Dream. Jesus, to this day, that song, I just can't. As the song played, he said something about how sorry he was, that it had to end this way, us being who we are. Us being who we are? That line haunted me for decades. What did that even mean? It wasn't until I cleared out some old comic books a few years back that it fell into place. It was a line from an old Wolverine comic. But back to the story at hand. He'd had the gun stuffed between the couch cushions. It was like a magic trick. There was nothing, then abracadabra, there was a gun. I've replayed this a million times, and almost 30 years worth of therapy. There was no possible way for me to stop what happened next. He put the pistol against the base of his skull and bang. Why the base of the skull? That's one easy. If you'd had to spend all that day picking up bits of bone and brain out of your hair, you'd know why. His face, from the eyes up, was gone. The one eye that remained in its socket had rolled up to stare at the ceiling as his head slouched forward. That was the most effed up thing a friend ever did. It happened at 10:45 p.m., July 3rd, 1994.